Hello and welcome to today's update. Today is 25th of February. So I wanted to look at some of the tech stocks, Tesla, Apple, Amazon, just to see what the price action is telling us, what the momentum indicators are telling us, what are some of the levels we should be looking out for. So I'll start off with Tesla. So you can see the daily chart of Tesla. You can see that after this big rally, Tesla is now consolidating. If I look at the moving averages, you can see that the price remains below the 200-day moving average, the black line, but above the daily 20, the green one, and the daily 50, the yellow one, EMAs. So you can see that it's been consolidating, so which is positive. So the price action, the moving averages are so far positive. Momentum indicators, you can see that they're gradually moving lower. That's because they're reflecting the fact that it's consolidating after this such a big run up. You can see RSI had gone way above to around 80, and since that RSI is gradually working its way lower, and it's now coming up to this important level, RSI 50 level, which is this black line right here. So long as the daily RSI remains above the 50 level, the momentum is considered to be positive. You can see that RSI had gone above the 50 level at this point in January when the price was around 133. So ideally, you would be long from this level. And you can see that right here, when it fell below the 50 level back in September, and it remained below until it went above in January. When RSI remains below 50, we generally see lower prices. When RSI is above 50, we generally see higher prices. You see, if you had gone long right here, you would still be well ahead. If I look at so I'll move the moving averages. If I look at the weekly basis, just to see what do I see. So obviously, big rebound from a deeply oversold condition. If I look at the momentum, RSI is at 50. So RSI is at a neutral inflection point because, as I mentioned, when RSI is above 50, momentum is positive. When momentum is positive, we generally see higher prices. Now, RSI did cross above the 50 level in February. And then we had this small dip based on this candle. The question is that going to fall below the 50? Is that going to do something like this? If you look at, right here, when RSI weekly, now we're talking about weekly RSI fell below here, and it remained below this level until this point. You can see we saw weak prices. If you look at right here, there was another time when it fell below the 50 in April, and then it stayed until mid-July, and we saw weakness. If you when it fell below the 50, the price was around 290. And then right here, the price was 272. So there was an 18-point decline in price. So this is an important level. When if this will indicate whether or not bulls are in control or bears are in control. If bulls are in control, momentum would be positive, and RSI should be above 50. So watch this RSI on a weekly basis. If you look at on a shorter time frame, on a 4-hour time basis, you can see RSI is at the 50 level, because right here you can see RSI had gone on a 4-hour basis above 50 right this point. And then it had this big move to the upside. Now it's back to the 50 level, and then we need to make a decision whether it goes to the upside or whether it breaks and moves to the downside. If it breaks and moves to the downside and remains below, then you are basically short. On the other hand, if it rebounds of this level, then you are effectively long from here. Because if you look right here, RSI fell below the 50 at this point. around, what was this, 183 using a 4-hour time frame. And then you stayed short until right here when price was 122. And then at 122 you're long from 122 until now. So 122, even if it falls and you are long from 122 and you cover your long, you have a good amount of profit. So I would be looking at RSI to see if there is a change in momentum. A change in momentum is very important. All right, so what are some of the levels we should be looking out for? So here are some of the levels to look out for. I'm just gonna first level would be on the downside is around this 188. You can see this, there's a wick right here, so this would be one area, and then finally this level right here, which is around 180. And on the upside, obviously this high, the 217 to 18 area would be but then in between there's also this 208 area, which is where the high of this candle, and then you see this candle, there was a rejection, so that would be, which is around 209. So on the downside, 188, 189 followed by 180. On the upside, 208, 209 followed by 217, 218. So that's Tesla. Now let's have a look at Apple just to see what we what can we see. So daily chart, you can see that it's been gradually moving lower. If I bring in the moving averages and hide the levels for the time being, you can see that it has fallen below the daily 20 and the 200-day moving average. It's still above the daily 50. It's beginning to look weak right now. And if you look at the momentum, look at RSI. The daily RSI has now dipped below 50. It closed at 49.59. So I'd be cautious right here, because if you look at right here, last time when it dipped below the 50 level and it remained below 50, important thing, it dips below the 50 and remains below the 50. That's the key thing. You can see that it generally, lower prices. On the other hand, right at this point, it crossed above the 50. The price was around 133 using the daily time frame. So ideally, you would be long. If you were trading based on the daily chart, then you would be long from 133 and you would be basically exiting right now, which is around 147. So you still have quite a bit of profit. So because it has fallen below the 50 level, I'd be cautious on Apple. Now remember, you tend to get fake outs around the 50 level. Why? Because bulls and bears, they battle for control. So sometimes you see RSI dip below but then bounces back, and vice versa. I mean, look at right here. There was a back here, it went above the 50 for a very short period of time and then fell back below, and continued to remain below the 50 level for an extended period of time. Even if you look right here, for a short period of time it went above but then fell back below. So that could happen. The fact that it fell below doesn't mean that it's going to remain below. It can recover and continue to remain above the 50 level. So I'd be very careful here. But at this point, because it has fallen below the 50 level, I would be cautious. If I look at the weekly basis just to see what the momentum is telling me, on a weekly basis, you can see that it's right at the 50 level. It closed at 50.55. So at an inflection point, key level, because you can see last time on a weekly basis, it fell below at this point and it remains below 50 for quite some time. And we saw generally weaker prices. You can see like right here on a weekly basis, it has gone above the 50 right here. So the price would have been 150, and then right here it fell below around 156. So you would still made like $6 if you were trading based on the weekly time frame. So the important thing is time frame. What time frame do you trade? Do you trade based on a 4-hour, based on daily, based on a weekly? And depending upon your time frame, your entry buy and sell signal would be different. So at the moment, on a weekly basis, we don't have a sell signal yet, but we are at a very, very important level, right? So if the reason why you want to look at weekly is to give you an idea of the bigger picture. On a higher time frame, if you see that RSI is below 50, that basically tells me that the stock is going to be weak for some time. On the other hand, if I see that RSI is above 50 and holding, that tells me that probably it's going to remain positive for some time. This level acts as a support as well as resistance. You can see there was a support right here, there was a support right here. So we need to see how this area gets resolved over the next week or so. Whether or not, if it falls below the 50 level, that would be a change in momentum, direction of momentum from positive to negative. So you want to be careful with Apple. What are some of the levels we should be looking out for Apple? So if I bring in the levels, you see Apple had traded between 157 and 149. So from this point to this point, so now that it has fallen below, the measured move is to this level right here, which is around 141. So I would be looking at 141. 141 basically means that it's going to fall below all of these moving averages. So the technical picture will start to look negative. So at this point, because of what I'm seeing on a daily basis and where RSI is on a weekly basis, I think you want to be careful with Apple. Look at Amazon. This doesn't look good to me at all. If you look at the daily RSI is below the 50 level. You can see that it had gone above the 50 level right here in early January, but then in February it has fallen below the so if you were trading based on the daily time frame, this is where you would go long around 87.36, and this is where you would basically close your long around 98. So you made around 15 points. And then right here you would be short from 98. Where is the price? 93.50. So you'd be up $5 right now. If I look at the weekly time frame, on a weekly time frame, see, it wasn't able to clear the RSI 50 level. Even when in January and February when we had this rally, Amazon wasn't able to clear the RSI 50 level. So this looks weak from a weekly time frame. In fact, if you look at from this point onwards, the weekly RSI pretty much remained below the 50 level, and you can see that the stock has been making lower lows. So not looking very strong at the moment. Amazon. If I look at Microsoft on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, you can see the daily RSI has dipped below 50, so warning sign. You can see that if you look at the moving averages, you can see that, let's just hide Microsoft. Microsoft has now fallen below the daily 20, the daily 50 EMAs, the 200 days. So this is looking a little bit weak. So if I bring in the levels, just to see what are some of the levels, the near-term level is around 245 right here, because it had traded between this level and this level. Now that it has broken below this range, the full measured move projects a target of 245. If 245 is broken, the next level would be around 230. But if I look at the momentum is indicating to me that I should be cautious on a daily basis. So let's have a look at the weekly time frame just to see what the momentum indicator is telling me. It's at an important level. This one is like Apple. It actually closed just below 49.46. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to Microsoft and say that it is at a neutral zone right now. RSI 50 is a neutral zone. You go below and stay below, that's negative. You go above and stay above, that's positive. So weekly, very important level. Daily, momentum has shifted from positive to negative. So I would be careful on Microsoft, at least for now, until such time I see daily move back above the 50 level. I would basically remain cautious. NVIDIA, now very strong looking price action. After the earnings, it blew through the previous high. Now, the only thing I would basically say is this: even though this is gapped up and is looking very strong, if you look at the daily RSI, the momentum is weakening. Momentum is weakening. RSI has not made new high, whereas price has. So this is showing me a negative divergence. Another thing I would say is this. If you look at the moving averages, they're looking very strong, no question about it. But the moving averages are beginning to widen. Now, when you see the moving averages widen, then there is a correction, and this gap then gets narrowed. If you look at right here, when price was falling, you can see the moving averages started to widen. Then what happens is that there was a correction, and that basically narrowed this gap. If you look at right here, the moving averages were when they were falling, the gap started to widen, and then you see there was a rebound, and eventually the two moving averages basically closed the gap. So the same could happen. Not sure when that would happen, but when I see that RSI is making lower high, and the fact that the gap is too wide, so I would basically be a little bit cautious on NVIDIA, even though the technicals look strong. But I think there is opportunity for some pullback, consolidation, until we start to see RSI start to make higher high, or this gap closes. If you look at the weekly basis, this is a very strong looking chart. There's no question about it. Look at the momentum, MACD crossing above the zero line. Look at RSI going up, very strong. The only thing is that RSI is now moving into an overbought territory. See the green line and then the red line. Red line is like a no-no zone, because you can see when it reached the red line right here, we saw some pullback. When it reached the red line right here, we saw pullback. When it reached the red line right here, we saw pullback. So it is extended, so there is room some consolidation, consolidation. I mean, this also would depend on the overall market. If the overall market starts falling because of the fact that inflation is going up, then we could see some profit taking. But I am seeing that the momentum is not keeping up with the price action. So that tells me that I should be a little bit cautious right here. So there could be some pullback, consolidation, move sideways, which would be healthy. Don't get me wrong. I think this would be quite healthy for it to basically slow down a little bit, because you can see that it is considerably above the 200-day moving average. The gaps are quite big. RSI is kind of making lower high. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for it to slow down a little bit. Netflix next up. You can see that it's been moving lower, has moved below the daily 20 and 50. The momentum indicators are looking weak on a daily basis. You can see RSI is moving lower. MACD is moving lower. It's now about to cross below the zero line. This is not good. RSI has fallen below the daily 50. This is negative. If I look at the weekly basis, on a weekly basis, you can see that all the correction, all the decline that has happened so far has corrected the overbought situation in a weekly time frame, because you can see that RSI has been going up, and then it was reaching an overbought territory, and all the correction that has done has corrected some of this overbought condition from a weekly time frame. But you can see on a weekly basis, RSI is still above 50, so that is positive. On a daily basis, it's basically correcting some of the excess. But I would see whether or not it can hold the RSI 50 on a weekly basis. If so, this would be positive. So RSI on a weekly basis at 52.95. You can see last time it found support right here. Now, if you look at right here, when RSI fell below the weekly 50 right here, and then it remained below the weekly 50, we saw a big drop. And then right here, when RSI went above the 50 level, what was the price then? Price was around 230. Where is it now? 317. So if you're still trading based on the weekly time frame, you would still be up from 230 to 317. If you went short right here because RSI fell, the price was 602. And then if you covered your short right here, price was around 289, you'd be you'd be way above. If you look right here, if you're trading on a week using a weekly time frame, you would be long at 500, and then you would be closing right around here around 586, so you would still be ahead, and then you would be going short if you were trading based on the weekly time frame. But if you were trading based on a daily time frame, then you would be going long right here, which is around what, 294, and then you would be selling it right here around 347, so you'd be up 50 bucks, and then you would be shorting right away around 347. Where is it now? 317. So you'd be up like roughly 25 plus points. If you went long right here around 254, and you closed your long around 290, you'd be making a decent amount of money. So you can trade based on different time frame. If you trade based on the daily time frame, you can use RSI to see when there is a change in momentum. Momentum is very, very important. When there is a change in momentum, you trade in that direction. So Netflix, I would be cautious on a short-term basis, but I can see that on a weekly basis, RSI still. So on a bigger time frame, everything is still fine, but I would be watching it because it's approaching this important level, whether it holds it and rebounds or whether it breaks below. Let's look at Google next and see what we see in Google. Google doesn't look good because if you look at, I'll just remove the moving averages. If you look at RSI has on a daily time frame fell below the 50 level right here. What was the price? 100. Where is the price right now? 89. So once it fell below the 50 level using a daily time frame, and if you had gone short right here, you'd be up like 10, 11 points. You would be long at this point because RSI had moved above the 50 level, price 92-ish. And then you would be closing it right here at 100, so you'd still make like $8. You'd be short right here using the daily time frame at 97, and then you would be covering your short right here around 92, so you'd be making $5. At the moment, you can see the momentum is weak, so I would not be favoring the long side. If you look at the weekly basis, you can see that this is similar to Amazon. I don't know what happened to these two companies. These Amazon and Google were bellwether companies at one point, and they're completely out of favor right now. Obviously the ChatGPT narrative is not helping Google. You can see that weekly RSI fell below 50 in April and pretty much remained below that level with the exception of a brief move up right here. So if you were trading on a weekly basis, you're basically short from 134. You have to make a decision whether you cover it right here or whether you cover it right here. If you cover it right here, you cover it at 99. So you're short from 134, you cover it at 99. Even if you cover it right here, that's around 122. So you're short from 134, you cover at 122 and immediately start short again at 122 and you cover it around 99. So effectively, you would still be making quite a bit of money if you were trading on a weekly time frame and using RSI 50 to determine whether or not which direction is the momentum. Is it positive or negative? So at the moment on a weekly time frame, I see momentum is weak. On a daily time frame, I see momentum weak. So it's best to avoid the long sides. If you're a trader, now if you're a long-term investor, obviously any weakness is a buying opportunity. But if you're a trader, then you don't want to be buying when momentum is weak because you're on the wrong side. Let's look at Meta. Right, so what's Meta doing? What it's doing is this massive gap up after the earnings. It's now digesting. It's still above the moving averages, the daily 20, the 50, the 200, all of that, and it's just consolidating. And during this big massive move up, you can see RSI went way above. RSI, where was RSI? RSI was above 85. And all this consolidation is doing is bringing RSI to more neutral level. You can see RSI is still above the 50 level. Now, if you were trading based on the daily chart, then you would be long right here when RSI moved above 50. The price was around 115, 116. Where's the price? Still around 170. So you'd still be up way, way, way. Right? If you were, this was a chop zone. If you were trading based on daily, this is where you would be short. What's the price then? 153. And then, maybe you cover right here around 117. So you still make quite a bit of money. And even if you went short right away and you covered right here from 117, 109, you made another $5. So, you can still make money using RSI, and the daily time frame. What about on a weekly basis? On a weekly basis, it remains very much above the RSI 50 level. So this is positive. Now, again, if you're looking, if you're trading based on the weekly basis, this is where you would go long, around 137, and you would still be long. RSI is, the price is 170. So you'd be up 30, 40 points. This is where you would go short using the RSI 50. Price was 331 and you don't cover your short until this point, 136. I mean, big move. If you were, if you're following this strategy, you would be long right here around 257, and you didn't cover it, you didn't sell it until here, until 343. You're long from 247, closing at 343. That's a good amount of money. And then even if you went short right here at 343 and you covered it right here at 341, you made a couple of bucks. You didn't lose anything. But at the moment, daily looks positive. Weekly looks positive. The momentum, RSI, the daily also looks is positive, but it's approaching this 50 level. I would watch this 50 level and see whether it finds support, whether it chops around for a while or outright just goes below the 50 level. If so, then that would be a change in momentum. Let's look at Enphase quickly. I know Enphase has been, I'll just look at it on a weekly basis. You can see that the stock has been moving lower. Look at what's happening to RSI. RSI dipped below the 50 right here, around 264. Where's the price? 190, under 199. So it's like 65 points, below. And since RSI is below, the momentum is negative, and you can see weekly MACD is crossing below. This is not looking good. If you're trading the RSI based on the weekly basis, this is where you would go long, 168, and then you would be basically closing your long right here, 264, almost like 100 points. Even if you look at this point, this is where you go short, 189, and then you didn't cover your short until this point, 158. So even if you use the RSI 50 level just to see which way the momentum is it positive, is it negative, and you stay with that momentum, I think you would do well. Whether you trade on a weekly time frame, daily time frame, it doesn't matter. The only thing you would watch out for is this 50 level right here. You see a lot of, sometimes you see chop, because this is where bulls and bears are fighting for control. Eventually, one group comes out the winner, and when that happens, you generally see the momentum remain in that direction for an extended period of time. You can see there was a chop for a short period of time. When this area was resolved, RSI was above the 50 level for an extended period of time. All right, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff. I hope to see you again in a future video. Thank you very much.